Um, I think something that helps both executives and boards is for the executive to have a very clearly written contract with the organization, one that anticipates possible mutiny from a board member or two, and that provides some kind of financial support for the CEO should someone decide to go rogue and want to get rid of this person. For example, yes, if we can let you go without cause, but we'll pay you a year's salary.
This is the Chamber Chat Podcast, the show dedicated to chamber professionals to spark ideas and to get actionable tips and strategies to better serve your members and community. Hello, Chamber Champions. Welcome to Chamber Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burton, and here on the show, I introduce you to people and ideas to better help you serve your chamber members and your community. Our guest for this episode is Tony Vedda. Tony is the president and CEO of the North Texas LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, where he has led the organization since 2007 as its first chief executive. With more than 4 decades of chamber leadership experience, Tony began his career as membership specialist for the Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce and later worked with the Metropolitan Chambers in Arizona and California. He also served as the executive director of San Francisco's Golden Gate Business Association, the nation's first LGBT chamber of commerce, further solidifying his commitment to inclusive economic development and advocacy. Tony returned to chamber leadership in 2005 as secretary for the newly formed North Texas LGBTQ Chamber before being named president and CEO 2 years later, a role that he continues to hold today. Under his leadership, the chamber has grown into a powerful voice for LGBTQ-owned businesses and inclusive economic growth across North Texas. Tony is an IOM graduate, and he holds a prestigious Certified Chamber Executive designation from ACCE as well, an honor earned by only 3% of active chamber leaders nationwide and the only LGBT chamber leader to receive it. He also holds a certificate in diversity and inclusion from Cornell University. Tony is deeply engaged in professional leadership and advocacy. He serves on the ACCE Board of Directors, chairs the ACCE Certified Chamber Executive Commission, and is a founding member of the Texas LGBTQ Chambers of Commerce, a statewide advocacy coalition. He is also a respected speaker and faculty member of the U.S. Chambers Institute for Organization Management. But Tony, I'm excited to have you with us today here on Chamber Chat Podcast. I'd love to give you an opportunity to say hello to all the chamber champions who are out there listening. And if you would, share something interesting about yourself so we can all get to know you a little.
Well, I'm really impressed with what you just read because I don't know who that guy is, but I'd hire him in a heartbeat. He sounds great.
That's right. For anyone listening.
It's always weird to hear those introductions, but thank you, Brandon. Thank you for inviting me to be on today. Something interesting about me. I am the most uninteresting person in the world, I believe, but I've had a lot of interesting jobs in my life. When I was very young, I worked in a computer assembly plant in Albuquerque, New Mexico, prior to working at the Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce. Shout out to Terry Cole, who is still the CEO at the Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce and was when I was just a little baby membership person.
Wow.
Anyhow, I ended up leaving Albuquerque to pursue a degree in music theater performance at Arizona State University, which has served me well in my chamber work. There's a lot of
I was going to say,
acting
Tony
and
is a
dancing
great
going
MC
on.
for anyone who's ever been at a conference that he's MC'd. He's great.
I find myself often tap dancing in front of my board. No, not really.
Right.
I love my board. But yeah, and I've had a chance to live in great places. I lived in New York for a while. I lived in New Hampshire, not so great. Just kidding. New Hampshire's fine. I performed at Hershey Park in Hershey, Pennsylvania, where it always smells like chocolate.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I finally ended up here by my husband, who was not my husband at the time. We had been dating for 2 years in San Francisco, and his job moved him back here. And as I like to say, I had just about gotten him the way I wanted him and wasn't really wanting to start all over. So I moved with him, and we're still together 31 years later, and we're still together.
It's worked out. That's great. I love it. Well, it's fun getting those interesting histories and facts about people. If you would spend a couple minutes and tell us about the North Texas LGBTQ Chamber, just to help give us an idea of size, staff, scope of work you guys are involved with, budget, but also I think it'd be helpful to tap into some of the demographics of the LGBTQ community and how that plays into the larger economic impacts.
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. And I'm a little bit of a geek when it comes to number kind of things, so I'm always happy to talk about that. So our chamber, as you mentioned earlier, was started in 2005. There was a predecessor organization that began in 1996 or seven, I believe, called the Stonewall Professional and Business Association, which was mostly networking. So the idea of creating a chamber came along. At the time, Houston had a very active and very successful Chamber of Commerce. So their CEO came up and helped the founders of ours get things going.
Okay.
Interesting enough, a few years later, that chamber closed. But then a few years after that, I went to Houston and helped them restart a new chamber, which
Restart
is
it.
having
Yeah.
its 10th anniversary.
I was gonna say I thought they had one in Houston now. So yeah,
They are doing
that's
great
awesome.
guns. I mean, the student has surpassed the teacher. So anyhow, so we are a dynamic staff of two, who do the work of probably 12. Um, Lisa Howe is my vice president of membership and programs, and I lean on her a lot. She also runs our leadership program through our foundation, which is a big job. We have just over 400 members. Let's just say 400.
Okay.
400 members in our chamber. We estimate, again, we have to estimate on LGBT statistics, mostly because we only know if somebody self-identifies, but based on some trusted data, we estimate that there are probably about 1,000 to 3,500 LGBT owned businesses in Dallas County. So you can
Wow.
see that out further from that, North Texas. So when you look at that, our penetration rate really is not very good. So I don't know why I'm admitting it, but there you go.
You got your work cut out for you. That's all.
That's right. There's endless opportunities.
That's right.
I will say, we've had a lot more interest from small business members lately, which has been good because of the current political climate. A lot of our corporate partners, not a lot, a few, have felt the need to step back, which is disappointing but understandable. So we're
Yeah.
we're okay. Let's see. So for years, this great firm in DC called Witty Communications would estimate the spending power of the LGBTQ community. The last time they did it, I think it was pre-COVID or just around then, and it was about $1 trillion. So we take that information and we kind of extrapolate for us here. And in North Texas, that spending power is about 5.4 million. I'm sorry, billion. My
Okay.
M's and B's. So $5.4 billion. So that's a pretty significant number. And so that's great when you're looking at the consumer side of things and businesses that sell to consumers. But because we are a chamber, we also look at GDP. So what are our businesses adding to the local economy? So I believe, hang on, I'm going to have to look at my note real quick. Yeah. So the information that we've garnered says about $4.4 billion a GDP is generated by LGBTQ businesses in the North Texas area. And it's a metropolitan statistical area, that kind of thing. So
Wow.
we are adding to the community and to the tax base in a big way.
Absolutely. So it's an interesting challenge, I guess, when individuals need to self-identify and almost put themselves out there saying, "Hey, I fit this demographic of a LGBTQ owned business." To be able to find those 3,000 to 3,500. Mm, So I mean, I don't, I don't fault you at all for having 400 members because it's got to be difficult to sift through all of that to try to find all these individuals and businesses.
Yeah. And to be clear, we do not ask anyone to self-identify. So members of our chamber do self-identify, and many of them are allies
Yeah,
who have varying reasons for being part of the
sure.
chamber, but they support our mission and the work that we're doing. And as long as they do that and, of course, pay their dues, we're happy to include them in the chamber.
Absolutely. I guess the question I was getting at is there a way to try to find your way to those businesses? Because you're not asking them to self-identify, but you want to be support for them and help them in their business. And how do you try to bridge that disconnect there?
Yeah, so we just passed our 20th anniversary, and we are still, and I should not be proud of this, we are still probably the best kept secret in North Texas.
Yeah.
It seems like weekly I hear someone say, "I didn't know there was a gay chamber in North Texas." So, and I think that's typical for most chambers. I think within certain communities, you assume there's going to be a Dallas chamber, Plano chamber, etc.
Sure.
But the LGBT community isn't often thought of in those same terms. And like most chambers, we do not do a very good job telling our story. Most of the time, our story is somebody else's. So a good example. This is from many years ago, so I think it's safe to talk about now. So there was a hotel being built in Dallas that the city was very involved in. We were very supportive of the hotel, and then found out that the operator of the hotel didn't even offer domestic partner benefits, which is kind of a minimal thing back then.
Yeah.
And so we were able to get in with them, have a good talk with them. And they of course had to offer those in California because it was the law, but they didn't here. But they did. And then a few years later, the National Chamber was coming here for its annual conference, and I reached out to the same folks, and the things had changed a little bit. And I said, okay, now we need to talk about marriage and recognizing same-sex marriage and whatever. There was hardly a conversation. I mean, it was pretty quick. And so they absolutely agreed. The following year, at the beginning of the year, they changed their benefits to recognize LGBTQ marriages from any state. And at the time, Texas didn't have same sex marriage. So those were things that the chamber did that, except for me talking to you about it now, I think maybe one other outside person knows, because it's not our story. It's that business's story of all the great
Sure.
things they've done, but it was done because of the work of the chamber. But we're the background people.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, today we're going to focus most of our conversation around the relationship between the executive and the board, and the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes with that. And we'll dive into that as soon as I get back from this quick break.
Hi, I'm Joe,
And I'm Rose.
and we're the founders of At My Community, a mobile app that can be customized to meet the unique needs of your Chamber of Commerce.
When we started At My Community, we envisioned a tool that would help communities thrive by simplifying communication and enhancing engagement. Chambers of Commerce face unique challenges, and we're here to help you tackle them.
At My Community helps the Evergreen Area Chamber of Commerce to create an app that keeps tourists informed even when their office is closed. They provide 24/7 access to local business information, which helps support the local economy and community engagement.
In Rocky Mountain House, we helped Rocky Chamber create an app with dynamic itineraries and digital resources for tourists, increasing local business engagement. The app has become an essential tool for the community, promoting events and boosting visibility for local merchants.
Today, we empower more than 200 chambers of commerce, campgrounds, and RV resorts to streamline communication, informing members about events, sharing business updates, and providing a digital hub for the community, all in one convenient app.
When you partner with At My Community, our team works closely with you to create an app that meets your chamber's unique needs. As your community grows, our app evolves with you. We are here to ensure you engage effectively with your members and streamline your operations.
Schedule a demo today at atmycommunity.com.
We can't wait to meet you.
Are you ready to take your organization's funding to the next level? Hi, I'm Clint Neesmith, CEO of Resource Development Group. As a Chamber of Commerce or Economic Development Organization leader, I know you understand the value of working with experts who understand your world. And that's exactly what RDG does best. For over 30 years, RDG has specialized in fundraising for EDOs and chambers. We bring cutting-edge strategies tailored to your organization, whether you're just starting out or gearing up for yet another new funding cycle. Importantly, our firm executives are hands-on from start to finish, from the feasibility study to the successful conclusion of your fundraising campaign, and our team brings deep industry roots and national expertise to every engagement. No matter the size of your community, RDG delivers data-driven, innovative revenue solutions, reinforcing ROI to investors and making sure your vision becomes reality. At RDG, we proudly build organizations that build communities. Visit us today at rdgfundraising.com and let us partner with you, building a stronger future for your organization and the community you are working to grow and develop.
Very good.
All right, Tony, we're back. As I mentioned before the break, today we're going to talk about the executive and board relationships. And I know you have a perspective that you've seen throughout the industry of maybe tensions that rise between the executives and their board chairs or the board in general. Share with us some of the background that you've seen that's led up to this topic for discussion today.
Yeah, if I go way back, when I was at the Golden Gate Business Association in San Francisco, which was the early 90s, I was the only paid executive at an LGBT chamber. There weren't nearly as many of them, but I was the only one at the time, which I thought was kind of odd.
Yeah.
But what we saw then in the LGBT chamber world, organizations tended to kind of come and go, or they'd be very active and then very inactive. And it had to do with their board leadership because they had no staff. There was no continuity between, year over year and such. So that was something that I observed then that I probably didn't really appreciate until I started working here. But I had been in and out of the chamber industry a number of times. A number of times I kept saying I was going to walk away. When I moved to Texas, I said, that's it, I'm done. No more chambers, no more nonprofits. Nonprofits are great, except for when they expect you to be nonprofit as well. And so I wanted to have a successful career and be able to retire one day. So I worked in banking for a while, which, if any industry will make you dead inside, it's banking. But nonetheless, it was very educational, and I enjoyed my time in banking. But this chamber came along, and I've been out of the industry a long time. I can spare a little volunteer time to help out. And the next thing you know, I was elected to the board, became the secretary, and then actually put together a plan to hire somebody. Not necessarily me, but we ended up with 3 great candidates, and then 2, and then I won, I think.
Yeah.
And I got
You
the
were the
role.
last remaining candidate. Yeah.
The other person, I will say, because it was down to 2 of us, the other person the board loved and said, we're going to ask him to be on our board. And I said, so you're going to call this guy and say, we're not going to hire you, but we want you to come work for free. And I said, well, yeah, kind of. All right. So I called him. I didn't know him from Adam. I called him the next week and scheduled lunch, and we became good friends, and he became our board chair a few years after that.
You
So
worked some good magic there. That's awesome.
so it all worked out fine. But why I tell you all that is because at that point I decided that I had run away from the chamber industry a number of times, and that I wanted to or needed to admit that this is an industry that chose me, not the other way around. No one is going to school to study to be a chamber executive. Little kids at Halloween don't dress up as chamber executives. It's just not something people think about. It's all about
You know
just
what, Tony? I
following.
can totally see your persona at Spirit Halloween this year.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we'll send that
My
in
little
to him.
briefcase, and yeah, say maybe as a visit organization, because they get a lot of fun things to do, but chambers not so much. Anyway, so once I got this job, I just decided I needed to go in, whole hog. So I was hired in May of 2007. And the following summer, I went to my first year of Chamber Institute, chamber in Los Angeles. West is best, even though it doesn't exist anymore. But I did 4 years of the U.S. Chamber Institute, loved it, learned so much about it. Continually talked to, by that point I had peers in the LGBT chamber industry, kept trying to get them involved in it. And really the idea of professionalizing the LGBT chamber industry within the greater chamber industry. So I graduated from Institute, which was wonderful, and excuse me, I was asked to serve on the board then, and then I was the board chair, and all those things. You miss a meeting, and the next thing you know, you're the chair of something.
That's right. They nominate you while you're gone.
And about 2 years later, the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives was having a conference in Oklahoma City. So I drove up there to see what's this all about. And there was somebody from my class getting their CCE, and I thought, I should probably consider this because I'm not going to remember more by waiting. I'm probably not going to get any
Yeah,
smarter by
it's true.
waiting. So the next year I applied and went through that program and became a certified chamber executive, which was, I think, one of the smartest things I ever did. And now, many years later, I'm thrilled to serve as now the outgoing chair of the CCE Commission. But I think that trajectory that I took, going to IOM, not fast tracking and trying to get it all done, but doing it 1 year at a time, which even then is drinking from a fire hose. Um, it really gave me a better perspective of my role as CEO and the board of directors and what their roles are. And so lately, it seems like there's been a lot of stress between CEOs and boards or board chairs. And I find it, academically, I find it kind of interesting. I also find it a little bit scary, since, we do serve at the pleasure of our boards.
Right.
And it seems to me some of the folks that I know who've been victims of this are really excellent people. I mean, they've done great jobs within their chamber, but I'm always interested to see what's under the surface. And
Yeah.
I think board training is a big part of it. Now, we don't do everything perfect. I would be the first person to tell you that. We don't. I mean, I try very hard uh, to do all the right things. But we have a couple of things I think work incredibly well. First of all, our communication is outstanding. Many, many, many years ago, our board chair and I started having a weekly meeting. And I know that sounds like simple kind of thing, and it is.
Yeah.
We just picked a time, put it on the calendar, and we'd meet in my office or we'd meet virtually after COVID or during, we got used to
Yeah.
doing that. Um, and sometimes we'd be talking about an issue that I saw on the horizon or something that was happening and, get their input and talk about it. And sometimes we would talk about RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't know. I mean, it was just a chance for us to touch base together. And it helped because, not everything is serious problems all the time, but it just gave us both a better sense of who we are and what we're doing. And there's never been a time when I take the chamber duty of care, duty of loyalty, duty of obedience. I take those very seriously, and I believe I've instilled that in our board as well. And along those lines, I would never challenge my board chair in a board meeting. I just
Yeah.
wouldn't. He and I, or she and I, as we've had in the past, um, we talk about things before me. There aren't surprises at our board meeting. We do a good job of managing it. So funny. He sent me an email recently that he's on another board and he said, I don't know, it might end at noon, it might end at 4 p.m. And I thought, oh my God, who's running this meeting? I mean, we do our chamber board and our foundation board, and we're done in less than 90 minutes. So, it's well crafted.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but, I think it's important that I support him. If I disagree with something, we're going to figure out how to get to the point where I can't agree with him because I think that's my issue or that I've convinced him otherwise. But I think we often see in some of these other incidents where a board chair will go to a chamber, to a CEO, and say, we're going to let you go. Now, does the rest of the board know that? Or is this something
Yeah.
the board chair just decided to do on their own? None of us work, the board chair is obviously the person that we deal with one-on-one, but we work for the board.
The board. Yeah.
And so those should be discussions that are had at the board.
Well, I've heard of board members too, going to fire the chamber executive. Is this your decision? Like, but as the executive, do you really want to stay there if that's the the hostility that's happening? And so there's obviously some dysfunction, which goes back to your point of communication and the board training. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're absolutely right. And probably kind of going back before that even is recruitment. And
Yeah.
so something I learned from somebody at another nonprofit who had been CEO for like 30 years or something like that is that the key to longevity is to be very active in your board recruitment. I will meet with people that members of ours that I kept an eye on, or I've told another board member who's on the same committee, keep an eye on them, let me know. And I'll meet with them. Usually my conversation is something like, I cannot ask you to join the board. I can ask you to apply. And, then we go through the whole process. And I try to give them probably more information than most would upfront. We go over all the
Yeah.
financials. We go over a lot of things because I don't want them to waste their time applying
Yeah.
and then later go. So, so that's how we start. And so there's an understanding of what their responsibility is. And certainly, if I got the sense that there's somebody who hates me and wants me to be gone, I would be suggesting to the board chair that maybe they not advance in the process.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened yet. About every we rotate board members or board chairs every 2 years. And when the new board chair comes in, I always tell them that when the board is ready for me to go, if they want to go a different direction, just tell me and I'll pack up my toys and leave. And, that's fine. I don't want all the drama. Just, and usually their response is, why? Are you leaving? Is something like, no.
Yeah.
But I want you to realize I know that, I serve at your
There's a
pleasure.
shelf life to these things, right?
Yeah, the fact that I've been here 20 years is kind of surprising to me, or almost 20 years. But yeah, I think there's just a need for greater communication between chairs and CEOs and chairs and the rest of the board. The board chair's responsibilities aren't just to run the meeting. You could get a trained monkey to do that. But the board chair's job is to make everybody on the board successful. So if the board members have goals that they're supposed to meet or responsibilities, it's up to the board chair to be working with them to make sure that they are successful and that we're all on the same page, we're all rowing in the right direction, all that kind of thing. So I think that if you don't have the proper recruitment, if you're, heaven forbid, an organization that elects your board by popular ballot, I'm not sure I could be CEO of an organization like that because you end up with the popular people who may not have the skills you need to run your organization.
Right.
But mine is not the only way, although it should be probably. And I tell my husband that all the time.
That's right. I
But
wish you'd have an opinion about something,
yeah, it starts with the recruitment and the training and that communication with your board chair and being just really good partners in the work that you're doing. I think something that helps both executives and boards is for the executive to have a very clearly written contract with the organization, one that anticipates possible mutiny from a board member or two, and that provides some kind of financial support for the CEO should someone decide to go rogue and want to get rid of this person. For example, yes, if we can let you go without cause, but we'll pay you a year's salary. Well,
Yeah.
that's gonna cause a little bit of pause for some board members. Go, oh, do we want to do
Maybe
that,
we
or do
don't
we
want
want
to
to
be
get
so
rid of this
quick.
board member who's mucking things up? Things like that.
Yeah.
And also we have the issue of boards that are they're the well-meaning people, but they get in the way of management.
Yeah.
There are certain things that the staff does, certain things that the board does. And when the board starts moving out of their lane and into the staff lane, especially if a staff of more than two of us, it can be very confusing for the staff. Who am I supposed to be listening to?
Yeah.
And it undermines the CEO and those kinds of things. So I think, and I've said the word communication so many times, I should be paid by the word, but I think communication with the board chair and a great training and understanding by everybody on the board. Um, and when you have those situations where, you have the rogue board member, again, it's up to the board chair. And nobody likes confrontation. That's the time they have to put on their big boy pants or big girl pants, either ones, and address the matter. Or you end
So
up with somebody who's made the CEO's life hell, and you may lose that person voluntarily or not.
yeah. So we brought up the idea of board training multiple times now. Who should facilitate the board training? What have you seen? What would be some good piece of advice on who facilitates that?
I am a firm believer, somebody told me this many years ago. I'm a firm believer in the fact that the expert is whoever came from furthest away.
That's right. The person from out of
So
town.
yeah, yeah. And profit is never accepted in their own land. So the Texas Chamber of Commerce executives, where we spoke last year,
Yeah.
does a board chair training to talk about these issues and chairs and CEOs. And gosh, I forgot what I was going to say about that. Chairs and CEOs. Yeah. And so you find people that are doing their own board training, but even with us, I mean, we bring somebody in every now and then, and we go over all our board stuff every January. I'm not sure how much the board appreciates it, but I always have that on the agenda. But we'll go to that meeting. As hard as I've tried to make sure they know everything, we will go to that meeting and somebody will say something that I've been saying for years. And suddenly, oh my God, what a great idea. We
Like,
should do that. I've been saying that to you. And that's fine. As long as the message finally gets there, I'm okay.
yeah.
But it's true.
Well, it's like children never listen to their parents either. So it's the
Exactly.
same kind of principles.
So, um, so I think if you can have somebody else come in, and I know in North Texas, the chambers are great here about switching off with each other, and find a different CEO to come in and do your board training, or someone from a training organization or something.
Yeah.
That's always going to be best. If you can remove yourself from the process, be part of the people being trained so that you're hearing the same thing everybody else is hearing, is ideal. But in a pinch, I guess you could do it yourself, but don't expect the best results from
Yeah.
that. And and the
Because they're not going to
reminder,
hear you.
like, who are you? Oh yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
But again, a lot of it has to do with documentation as well. So most boards will have a job description for the board members. They may have a code of conduct, which we have. They may have something describing their responsibilities, their give and get, their attendance, those kinds of things. Understanding of the legal responsibilities, the duty of care, loyalty, and obedience. Any other important policies to organization? We have an anti-harassment policy that we make sure is always in front of new board members, and then part of our annual review of documents. So I would like to think everybody reads those every year, but I'm not stupid. But we do put them out there, and we make sure that they know these are the documents that are there, so they know they exist,
Yeah.
and that they're required to sign off on them. For some reason, when people sign things, they tend to pay attention to them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. That's interesting. So I mean, we've covered a lot here. A lot that should give listeners stuff to kind of chew on and maybe rethink the approach that they take with their board, and especially when it comes to board training and how are we communicating these things openly and upfront. I like the part that you mentioned about the contract too that you have with the chamber. If you can work in something in there about a separation clause and some kind of a severance, payout, that
Mhm.
will help to keep the ship a little more steady. I think when things might get heated, but you guys can come to level heads as you work through that.
It's important if you go that route, and I highly recommend it, that you, the CEO, hire your own attorney. I wouldn't tell the board that you've hired an attorney because that just, lawyering up sounds like really tough.
Yeah.
But make sure that you have somebody reading the agreement on your side to give you some advice. And one of the things that we've always had, and I had great examples from wonderful North Texas leaders many years ago, but that cause for being let go is clearly defined. So these are things that are cause. Anything else is not. And that's an important part of it. I also think people need to take advantage, I wish they would, of what's available to them at whatever level. So we should all be budgeting for continuing education so that we can be part of our regional chamber executives group. I know in Texas, we have a Gulf Coast chamber execs, we have the North Texas chamber execs, and I'm guessing somewhere in West Texas or something too, but I don't know for sure. But so that local regional group, your statewide Texas Chamber Executives, most states have a executive association, and then the king of them all or queen, ACCE.
Yeah.
Is kind of the top of it, and of course these are all separate, and you have to pay separate dues for all of them, um, which is another thing I would work into a contract that the chamber pays for your executive dues in
Trainings
different.
and infant dues and everything.
But just the fact that it gives you an opportunity to network with some people, there's only one of you.
Yeah.
So, there aren't many people that know what you're going through or what you're dealing with. But once you have that network, most people in the chamber industry that I've met, I should say not most, but all, have been very welcoming, happy to assist, share documentation, anything. And so I think those are the kinds of things that will help, as I said earlier, professionalize the industry so that you may have been hired because you know how to put on an event that is important to the chamber, but your real work as a chamber is advocacy. How do I learn about advocacy? Well, here's
Yeah.
the chamber that has a great advocacy committee, and I'm going to learn from them, put my own committee together and stay at Austin, yada, yada. But I think those things, and look for the training that's available. Of course, IOM I think is a great preface before working on your CCE, which I highly recommend, not only because I'm here in commission and I'm supposed to say that, but also ACCE has some training modules that you can do. So
Yeah.
find out what you're not good at. If event production is something you're not good at, but finance is, well, skip finance and, take the class on event production or membership or advocacy or whatever it is. But I think this is going to sound terrible. So this is only seen by chamber executives, right?
Right. No board members see this. Yeah.
Board members can't watch this. The more you can do to position yourself as the subject matter expert in the industry, the better off you'll be.
Yeah.
So I have
As
members
Seth
who
Godin says, be the linchpin for your organization.
absolutely. Yeah, I have members who one's an insurance agent and one's a corporate HR person and one's a realtor, and they're all experts in what they do. They don't know how to run a chamber. And so if you don't make yourself that expert and help them see you as that expert, then you're doing yourself a disservice. But I am thrilled that, board members will often defer to me and they'll ask me, well, what do other chambers do? What's in the industry?
Yeah.
Things like that. I'm fortunate. I've been in this job for almost 20 years now. And I try to remember that there's some advantages to that. The level of trust that my board has in me is incredibly high, which I would never do anything to hurt that trust. But when you're new, you don't always have that. And starting with the education and getting to again make yourself that subject matter expert is key.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Tony, as we start to wrap up, I wanted to ask for the listeners who are trying to take their organization up to the next level, what kind of tip or action item would you share with them as they strive towards that goal?
Run, do not walk to the nearest exit. No, just kidding. No. I'll tell you, this is a challenge for all of us because we all want to elevate our organization, and it takes time. Having organic growth is difficult, slow, but I think often the best. Some communities do very well at big membership campaigns, and God bless them. I'm thrilled that works for them. I don't think for my community it would, again, because we're targeting LGBT and ally businesses, not everybody within, the confines of a city or a county. So that doesn't work for us, but it works great for other people. So that slow, very slow organic growth is good. Communication with your members is something that I'll admit I let go of a little bit after hiring Lisa.
Yeah.
Every now and then I bemoan the fact that for years I could name every member we had. I would see them, I'd know their name, I'd know their company. Now I'm lucky to remember my name most of the time, but um, that kind of connection is always helpful. Following through on things that you tell your members you're gonna do for them. And there was another thing I was gonna say about next level. Must have been a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, oh, I know what I was going to say. So I belong to an executive group, CEOs of LGBT organizations or CEOs who are themselves LGBT. And we get together twice a month and we swear it's not therapy, but nonetheless,
It helps.
yeah. But it gives us all a chance to talk about employees and boards and things like that in a very safe and confidential environment. If you don't have that, I suggest you get one of those.
Yeah.
But the woman that facilitates for us asked us last year for a word that, our word for the year. And I still don't know what mine was, but then a new one for this year. And I picked two. And I said, my words for this year are focus and delegate. And and I'm very much trying to do that. Stay focused on the things that are important that I do. There's a lot of things that we could do. Are they really important? Harry Cole once told me, so it was a long time ago in Albuquerque,
Yeah.
um, not to let the immediate overshadow the important.
Yeah.
So, somebody may come to you and their hair's on fire for some reason, that's fine for them, but, their emergency doesn't necessarily have to be yours. So, what's immediate, what's important, focus on what's important, and then delegate. So, I have two words this year, focus and delegate. So,
I like
one
that.
of the things that I can, again, we're very small, two staff members, but they're board members who would be willing to do some things. So, what board members could I ask to do some little thing or to serve on a city committee so that I don't have to go to all of them, those kinds of things. So focus and delegate and check with me in a year or so and I'll let you know if it takes us to the next level or not.
I also like asking about the future of chambers and how you see the future of chambers and their purpose going forward.
Great question. And of course, I only say great questions so I can be thinking about a good answer.
Right? That pause.
If you had asked me this pre-COVID, I would say that we're all trying to redefine our relevance and what it is we do. So my first chamber job in Albuquerque was in the late 70s, early 80s, I think. And we were just at the end of the period where people joined the chamber because it was the right thing to do. And so we get to that period and people aren't joining because it's the right thing to do anymore. And they're not joining because it's about supporting community. They're doing it because they want to increase their sales. They want to have networking, those kinds of things. And that was a major shift in chambers. And that's why you see a lot of chambers that do a lot of networking programs. And we do them as well. I I sometimes try to miss them. But it's enjoyable to see my members. So it's like that's okay. I'll come and put on my I love to dance smile and talk to people. Uh, but but they get so focused on that they forget that the idea of a chamber of commerce back in the 1600s was to represent business to government.
Yeah.
And so that advocacy piece has always been there, whether people have recognized it or not. You will still find chambers that say, oh, we're not political. Well, no, it's not be political, but you have to be advocating for something. I mean,
Right.
taxes or permit use or whatever, I don't know, but there has to be things that are important to your members. If I can advocate on an issue that's going to affect 90% of our members, that is a much better use of my time than a networking event that's going to assist maybe 20% of them.
Right.
But pre-COVID, I would say, people are still looking for that, whatever. COVID proved that we are relevant, and that there were a lot of things that we did to connect small businesses that made a huge difference. I know in Texas, we were one of the chambers that distributed COVID tests to small businesses. There are arts organizations and our bars and restaurants. They kept us running out of them because they needed them for their continual testing. So that was a way that we were able to connect a service to the business community that might not have been served before. And same thing with financial support from the federal government, making sure people understood what was out there, how to get the money, what's involved. So all those advocating for a small business or providing them with support that they need in a broader sense really came to light during COVID, and proved that chambers are relevant. We may do things a little different like this,
Yeah.
but we're still about helping businesses grow, helping our communities thrive, and for ours, of course, advancing equality.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Tony, this has been a great conversation, and hopefully those listening have been jotting down some notes, at least getting some thoughts spinning about how they want to have some conversation with their board and be better at recruiting and looking out for themselves. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to share any contact information for anyone listening who might want to reach out and connect with you or learn more about your approach. Where would you point them, and what would be the best way to connect?
Yeah, just yesterday I told someone, gave them my phone number, and I said, give me a call. I answer sometimes,
Yeah,
but
I recognize the number, right?
yeah. My direct dial number is 214-865-6516. And that comes to my desk. And if my phone system's working properly, to my cell phone at some point, I do return phone calls. And then my email address, I think is pretty darn easy to remember. It's my name, Tony.Vedda, Vedda, at lgbtqchamber.com. So, and if you mess up and you don't put the Q, I'll still get it. We have a lot of email things, but yeah, email is always great. If you're in North Texas and need a connection to the North Texas Chamber Executives, I'm happy to facilitate that. If you want more information on the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives or the CCE program, I'm happy to provide that or connect you with the folks there. Give me a call, send me an email. Don't hit me up on social media because I'm not often there.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook about once a month, whether I need to be or not. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Well, we'll be sure to get this in the show notes for this episode so people can find you. But again, Tony, thanks for setting aside some time and spending it with us here on Chamber Chat Podcast. I appreciate it and appreciate your experiences and stories you had to share with us as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
If you are a chamber professional, be sure to subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast on your favorite podcast app or now on YouTube so you never miss a new episode. New episodes are released each week and delivered right to you. If you're finding value in the podcast, please take a moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It really helps others discover the show. And most importantly, share Chamber Chat Podcast with your colleagues in the industry so we can continue to grow and strengthen the chamber community together.
This episode is brought to you by Riverside. If you've ever thought about starting a podcast for your chamber or your business, one of the biggest challenges is recording high-quality audio and video, especially when you and your guest aren't in the same room. Riverside is the platform I use to record every episode of the show. It gives you studio-quality audio and video right from your browser, automatically backs up your files, and even creates clips you can use on social media. It's designed to make podcasting simple and professional without the headaches. If you're ready to launch your podcast or upgrade your recordings, head over to chamberchatpodcast.com/riverside to get started today. Again, that's chamberchatpodcast.com/riverside, the same tool I trust to bring you these conversations every week.